Welcome to this explainer. Every summer in Japan, people actually reach for ghost stories just to cool off from the suffocating heat. But these chilling tales, they offer so much more than just a quick seasonal thrill. They actually give us a profound window into a culture's entire worldview. So let's dive right in. What can a ghost story tell us about a culture? It's a fascinating question to chew on, isn't it? Because when we really examine what a society finds genuinely terrifying, we're not just looking at monsters hiding in the dark. We are looking at their absolute foundational beliefs. Our deepest terrors expose exactly how we understand our place in the universe, how we process our own guilt, and really how we view the afterlife. If you look closely at what a culture fears, you see the shape of its entire worldview. I want you to take a second and just let that settle. Fear is an incredibly revealing emotion. It strips away all the superficial, everyday layers of a society and just leaves us with these raw, core anxieties. And when we start comparing different cultures through this specific lens, the revelations are absolutely profound. Section 1. The Devil versus the Dead. So in the West, especially when we look at continental Europe and America, the great ultimate force of horror has historically been the devil. We are talking about an absolute cosmic evil here. The ultimate fear is this profound dread of being tempted into evil and suffering the permanent loss of your soul. But in Japan, the most terrifying thing was never some absolute cosmic entity of pure, unadulterated evil. Instead, the ultimate terror was simply a human being who had once truly lived. And that brings us to a very specific, frankly chilling concept. Since ancient times, Japan has deeply feared the vengeful dead, known as the onryō. Now, these entities weren't demons crawling out of some fiery hellscape. No, they were historical figures. Ordinary humans who were driven to absolute ruin during their lifetimes, and who returned as spirits to bring plague and disaster down upon the living. It is a terror born entirely from the human experience. But here's where it gets really interesting. Behind this fear of the vengeful dead lies a quiet, lingering guilt. It's that unsettling feeling that maybe our own actions were wrong. You see, fearing a human grudge is actually a reflection of a society's dread of facing the consequences of its own worldly actions. It completely forces a culture to look inward at its own morality, rather than pointing outward at a cosmic villain. Section 2. Deifying a human grudge. Let's look at a concrete historical example, Sugawara no Michizane. He was driven to absolute ruin by his political rivals and met a truly tragic end. And after his death, it was widely believed he returned as a terrifying onryō, bringing deadly plagues and natural disasters straight to the capital. But here is the wild part. The Japanese didn't simply fear this spirit and try to cast him out. Instead, they made the incredible choice to enshrine, honor, and pacify his spirit. Ultimately, Michizane, a man deeply disgraced in life, was elevated to Tenjin, the highly revered guardian god of learning. To fear a deeply human grudge, yet consciously choose to deify it? That is something the strict good versus evil logic of Western monotheism could scarcely produce. I mean, Western traditions typically seek to banish, exorcise, and completely cast out the evil, right? But the Japanese sensibility is just entirely different. The goal is to calmly honor and pacify the spirit, literally transforming a bringer of disaster into a protective guardian. It's a complete paradigm shift. Section 3. The Anatomy as Kaiden. As we start breaking down these literary styles, the differences become incredibly stark. Think about Western horror. It usually centers on a broken taboo, blood, gore, violent death. It's very overt, right? Very aggressive. But the Japanese ghost story, the Kaidan, it needs absolutely none of those things. Its fear is so much quieter. It relies heavily on a creeping intimacy, that deeply unsettling quiet sense that this could happen to me. It's way less about a monster jumping out of your closet and much more about the shadows in your own room shifting just a fraction of an inch when you aren't looking. And this unique style, it thrives on a very specific, deeply beautiful concept known as Ma. Ma is the quiet pause, the unexplained blank space. It's that exact moment when everyday reality softly trembles. Just listen.
That's silence. That tiny hesitation where reason completely falls away and you're left entirely alone with your own thoughts. That is Ma.
You see, a culture that chose to honor its ghosts rather than banish them, well, they learned to fill the gaps left by reason with imagination. By making the conscious choice not to destroy the unknown, this culture learned to actually savor the unexplainable spaces in everyday reality. They carved out room for mystery, allowing it to breathe right there alongside their daily lives.
Section 4. What we live beside.
Fear, it turns out, is a mirror. Show me what a people fears, and I will show you what they have chosen to live beside. The Japanese chose to live beside the lingering memories and grudges of human beings, transforming worldly terror into reverence. Meanwhile, Western cultures chose to live beside a cosmic battlefield of absolute good and evil. Fear truly is the ultimate, unfiltered reflection of our worldview. Which brings us to our final thought, and a question I really want you to carry with you today. What unseen things is your culture choosing to live alongside? When you look deep into the mirror of your own fears, what exactly is looking back at you? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time.